Welcome to this week's Friday Topics.
This week we will be talking about what's wrong with Vancian magic.
You may be asking, what do you mean what's wrong with Vancian magic? Is there a lot wrong with Vancian magic?
There's a lot wrong with Vancian magic.
What could be wrong, you're asking? Well, let's start with this. It's stupid. The idea that a magic user, and what is he? He's the most educated guy in the RPG world, right?
Yeah, with this 18 to 20 intelligence.
Exactly. He's this uber brainiac, and he can't do anything without his spell book. He is not a magic user. He's not a wizard. He's a magic item user. Take away his spell book, he's nothing. He has to have scrolls, something else to be able to wield magic through. Without his spell book, he isn't even a good fighter because he never learned how to use armor, and he's useless. It's got to be the dumbest invention ever in all RPG gaming.
Let's talk about the spell book. Let's compare it to what a real wizard would do, such as one in Harry Potter or even Gandalf. They don't forget their spells, and they don't need the spell book. They can continually cast the spells until they have worn them out. Where the spell book, if you lose it, you no longer have those spells. A real wizard can continually cast their spells until they're out of energy. They have studied their life, and they don't need to spend 8 hours restudying their spell book over and over and over again.
So in other words, they're not memory impaired.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the things that people might say to offset this whole idea of the spell book. Here's a common argument that I hear, and it's stupid. Oh, well, what they're really saying is it's a ritual. They sit down and they study a ritual, and they're doing almost 99% of it, and they save the last key trigger words, and that's what they're going to cast the spell with. Think about that a minute. Once you get to a more advanced spell, you're probably spending, if he's basically a ritual caster,
Yes.
he may spend 30, 45 minutes, an hour to memorize that ritual.
Yes.
Now, if it's an hour ritual, let's say it takes 59 minutes. Since he's going to spend the last minute casting the spell, doing his abracazam, shalamazoo, whatever he does.
Yes.
All right? So, you've got your adventurers running around doing their 8 hours adventuring a day. Then they've got to get food. They've got to set up camp. They've got to do everything. While everybody's asleep, the wizard has to sit down for 8 hours, especially a high-level wizard, and he has to do his almost rituals. So, you've got a guy who, even in game talk, has to rest for 8 hours normally. Unless they're a drow and they can meditate for 4.
And then technically, with that, they're only able to memorize maybe 8 spells.
But that's the thing. You've got a guy who never gets any sleep. So he's not going to die in combat. He's going to die of sleep. So stop using these sad excuses about, oh, well, he's going to do the rituals and almost finish them off. You've got to you only have 24 hours in a day, and there's no way that he's going to be able to do all that, especially an adventurer who's spending 8 to 12 hours a day adventuring. Stop coming up with lame excuses for a bad magic system.
So what's a viable alternative to the Vancian magic?
Oh, God, don't say 4th edition because people are going to have a hemorrhage.
Well, something like 4th edition. Not necessarily 4th edition with the encounters and dailies, but something like it, where you have your signature spells. You can cast those over and over and over again. Just because you've used it so much, it will never wear you out. It's basically second nature to you. And then something like encounter spells, where each one drains you a little bit. Not quite as much as dailies, but you can use them quite a few times. But once you have, you're done. You can't really do anything else because you're tired.
Now, you're not saying use the 4E encounter magic system is the answer, are you?
No, I'm not.
So what are you saying?
I'm basically saying with the encounter spells, if, let's say you have...
Well, why don't we stop with the encounter spells and really go to something like... Because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking something like fatigue points, mana points, or something where you use... And I know what you're saying, like magic missile or something. That's just one of these things where a mage walks around and goes, whoop up, whoop up, whoop up, and they're there, right? And you've memorized it. You're just so awesome at it. You've learned it so well. You don't have to.
You accidentally do it in your sleep and zap your wife in the butt. You know.
Yeah, maybe she's into it.
I don't want to know. and then the really big spells like dailies, they cost so much energy you can only really do them a couple times a day because it just takes so much out of you.
So you're not saying that what we should do is go to a 4th edition encounter system.
No.
You're saying something like have cantrips, which would be at-will spells that you've mastered.
Yeah.
That makes sense because, let's face it, a wizard should be a master of magic, not a guy that reads a book and has to do a spell and just remember the last couple of words to trigger it. That's
Anybody
not a
can
wizard.
do that.
That's right. Anybody could do that. And that's why I feel that the wizard has always been the most stupid class of them all, because you steal his magic book, you burn it, you do whatever, he's useless. We're not saying that we should do one or another system, are we?
No. Rather than using something where each time you use a spell, such as an encounter or Vancian magic, it's expended, switch to an energy system like fatigue points, mana pools, mana points, something like that, where you don't expend a spell, but rather you expend points from that mana pool, and once you have used spells that actually use points from that mana or fatigue point pool, you can't do anything else. You can't even cast those cantrips anymore, which helps limit the wizard and not make him completely overpowered.
There's a lot wrong with the Vancian magic system. I don't care what type of justification you put into it. Vancian magic does suck.
Yes.
The idea that you've got this guy who can't wear armor, can't do anything, especially at low levels. You sit there, you go pop, 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 your spells are gone, and now you're useless in combat.
Yeah.
But it's just the whole concept. It's not rational that this guy, who's supposed to be the most educated person in the group, has zero memory.
Yeah.
It's like you have a flaming idiot running around who can just say a couple of words and then he forgot what he just did. And it makes no sense. And even if you're using the idea that he's doing rituals and just remembering the last couple of words to trigger the ritual, again, that's stupid, because you have a guy who never sleeps.
Then he suffers from sleep deprivation.
And he should just die. Let's face it, this all goes back to people being nostalgic about gaming. Most of the people who are being nostalgic that I run into never played original D&D, never played any of these games. So I don't even know why they're being nostalgic. It's like idiot people who were not born and lived through the 30s, 40s, 50s, Great Depression, sitting back and saying how wonderful it was during those days. Life was simpler, life was better. No, it wasn't. You didn't have medicine. You didn't have all these things that we have now. It sucked. And let's face it, it's a direct analogy. Gaming sucked at first, and it's gotten better.
Yeah.
Move on. Get away from this stuff, and don't be nostalgic about poorly designed magic systems. And that's all we're talking about. Vancian magic is a poorly designed magic system.
So as you can see, we think there's plenty wrong with Vancian magic, and we're not nostalgic about it. But anyways, that's the end of this week's topic. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, click that subscribe button, like the video, do all that good stuff.
And if you want to comment down below and say you disagree or whatever, go ahead.
If you're on the blog, do all that stuff, click the link to get to YouTube, and also subscribe to the blog. And even if you're on YouTube, click the link in the description below to get to the blog and subscribe to that too.
We post plenty of things related to RPGs, gamings. We do vlogs, podcasts. We do our mini painting, and we want to see your minis as well, so please do submit them for the Tuesday Mini Challenge. I'd love to see some other mini painting other than ours, and that's pretty much it. Be sure to subscribe to the blog. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Check out everything, and feel free to comment. We're happy to hear from everybody. Thanks again. This is RPGDad signing off.
Bye.